بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. الحمد لله رب العالمين والعاقبة للمتقين ولا عدوان إلا على الظالمين وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله المبعوث رحمة للعالمين صلى الله تعالى عليه وعلى آله وصحبه وكل من تبع هداه واستمسك بسنته إلى يوم الدين. أما بعد، فقال عز وجل: أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم وما أرسلناك إلا رحمة للعالمين. And welcome back again, brothers and sisters, to our weekly program, Islam and Global Affairs, with me, Imam Shamsi Ali. Of course, we have to begin by thanking Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, because only by His blessings, only by His mercy, that we're able to be together again at this moment. Everything else is in the hand of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Tabaraka alladhi biyadihi al-mulk wa huwa ala kulli shay'in qadir. That Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has the power, and He is powerful in implementing His power. Wa huwa ala kulli shay'in qadir is to emphasize that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does not only have the power, but He is able to implement the power. Because sometimes people have the power, but they cannot implement their own power. They are so weak. They are so incapable in implementing their power. Brothers and sisters, our discussion about Islam and global affairs. And in the last session, we talked about why this topic is such an important thing to talk about. Why global issues are important things in Islam. And we explained that because Islam itself is naturally global deen. It's the deen that is global in nature. So we cannot just simply say Islam is local, that we are living in New York, so our issue is about New York, or you are living somewhere in Bangladesh, so your issue is only Bangladesh. We are living in a globalized world, and Islam is a global religion. And then we talk about what is global world. And we explain about the characteristics of the global world. Now tonight, I'm going to talk about the Muslims worldwide. But let me begin by mentioning again a polling or a survey which was conducted some years ago. And it said that in 50 years, and that is 2050, after 2000, in 2050, Islam will become the largest religion followed by the people. In other words, that the Muslims are going to be the largest group of religion in the world. But in fact, we don't have to wait 50 years. In fact, the largest religious group at the moment are the Muslims. Because if we divide the Christians into two factions, and as you know, the Christians are divided into two main divisions. There are Christians call themselves Protestant, and there are Christians call themselves Catholic. And both these two groups cannot unite because they have differences and fundamental differences. So when we separate the two divisions of Christianity, in fact, Islam has become the largest religious group in the world. There are 1.6 billion or even more Muslims worldwide, while Catholic 1.2 billion, Christianity around 1 billion, and then the third largest religions are those people who call themselves unaffiliated. In other words, there are a lot of people in this world who feel that they are not affiliated to any particular religion. Some of those call themselves agnostic. Some of those call themselves simply, there is no religion. They are spiritual. They just believe in the existence of God, but they don't believe in any particular religion. Just like Karen Armstrong, a person who knows religions A person who knows Islam, who knows Christianity, who knows Judaism, but she doesn't believe in any particular religion. In fact, these people are the third largest group of religious people in the world. We call them religious because they have their own belief, and that is to believe that they don't have any particular religion, but although they believe in the Almighty Allah or God the Almighty. And then you have Hinduism, around 900 million people, mostly in India. And the fourth one, number 5, you have some Chinese religion, including Buddhism, Shintoism, and others, Confucianism, and others. So my point here, brothers and sisters, that Islam had become the largest religion in the world. And you can feel that Islam is still the fastest growing religion in the world. Islam, in fact, has 57 majority countries, from Indonesia to Morocco. You have Indonesia, Pakistan, Bangladesh, you have Turkey, you have Iran, you have all these largest countries happen to be Muslims. So you can imagine how many Muslims worldwide. And then Islam is growing, mashallah, in the Western society, in Europe, in UK, in France, in Germany, here in the United States. Islam is irresistible, cannot be resisted in terms of growth, growing tremendously, particularly after the 9/11. And once again, we can say that the most global and diverse followers of any religion is Al-Islam. I mentioned this in the last session, that inshallah, anywhere you go in this world, in any country, to any country, you will find Muslims. New Zealand, for example, brothers and sisters, we didn't know that much about Islam in New Zealand until the massacre, until the killings of our Muslim brothers and sisters in that country. And now Islam is growing tremendously in New Zealand. You're going to Caribbean, you're going to South America, Brazil, you're going to Latin America, Colombia, Mexico. Islam is growing. So my point here, brothers and sisters, that Islam is the largest faith group worldwide. And that is something that we have to know as Muslims. Now, when we come to the issue of natural resources, we have to know that Islam or Muslim countries are among the richest countries. Indonesia, for example, when you talk about natural resources, you have gas, you have oil, you have, all these rich, natural resources in the oceans. Just name it. Very rich country. You talk about Middle East, you have oil that can shake the markets if they want. In other words, that over 50% of the world natural resources, according to some people, belong to the Muslim countries. In addition, we Muslims are proud of our past. We have a history, noble and glorious history, from Medina al-Munawwara in the time of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam to the time of the Sahaba, the Khulafa al-Rashidin, until the Bani Umayyad, Bani Abbasid governments, until the Ottoman Empire. Even now, brothers and sisters, when you go to some European countries, last year, before the pandemic happens, I was in some European countries, 9 European countries. I visited Austria. I visited the Netherlands. I visited Belgium. I visited even some former communist country, such as Serbia. I visited Serbia, Belgrade. And in Serbia, Belgrade, there's a very huge mosque or masjid that built by Ottoman Empire, a Khilafah al-Uthmaniyya. So brothers, we have this past pride, the historical pride that belongs to this ummah. How Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, ruled Spain for over 7 centuries and established one of the advanced civilization in the human history. But unfortunately, brothers and sisters, with all this glorious past and glorious history, when we come to the current situation of the Ummah, very sad to say that we are exactly the opposite of what we had in the past. We are weak in almost every aspect of humans' life. Economically speaking, despite of all these rich natural resources that we have, the majority of the Muslims are poor. The majority of the Muslim countries are poor countries. I'm not talking about the kings. I'm not talking about the umara, those who are, leaders in the Muslim countries, those who are in political power. They are rich. But when you go down to the people, to the Muslims, most of the Muslims are poor, despite of the natural resources. Markets. Muslims have become only market for those who produce, for the Western countries, for the European countries, even for China. China produce a lot of productions and then they sell it to the Muslims worldwide. Even I used to say jokingly that when you go to Mecca al-Mukarramah, performing your Hajj, performing your Umrah, and then you buy gifts, with all pride that we have, that mashallah, we buy our gift from Mecca, and we feel there's a lot of blessings in it. There's a barakah, because our sajada, our thawb al-Arabi, our tasbih even, we bought it from Mecca al-Mukarramah. And then we went back to our own respective countries, we open it, it's made in China. Tasbih made in China. Sajada, prayer rugs made in China. Thawb al-Arabi, Arabic clothing made in China. Turban made in China. So Muslims had become great markets, and the reason is because we don't produce. So we have become an object by others people. But more sadly, the Muslim countries only know how to borrow. We borrow money, we lend money from the people in order to build our infrastructure. Most of those who are building streets, building hospitals, building bridges in the Muslim lands are done by others. People are borrowing money from the rich countries, and oftentimes just paying the interest is such tremendously difficult for the Muslim countries. This is our situation. This is our situation. In some Muslim countries, the natural resources owned primarily by non-Muslims. You go to many Muslim countries, and the companies are working in order to abuse the Muslim countries' natural resources are non-Muslim factories, non-Muslim companies. That is the reality, my brothers and sisters. A sad reality, but we have to acknowledge that economically we have been abused, economically we are oppressed, economically we are marginalized, economically we are weak and poor. And this impacts everything, has an impact on everything in our life. Politically speaking, politics oftentimes are being controlled by minority non-Muslim in the Muslim majority lands. Sometimes when you see the reality in the Muslim lands, there are majority Muslims, millions, hundreds of millions of Muslims. And there are some minority non-Muslim, but the minority are controlling politics, the power in their hands. Why? Because they have the money, they have the politics, they have the economy. And sometimes, sadly to say, but it's a reality once again, some Muslim leaders are being used by minority in the country, in the same country, in the Muslim country, to oppress the Muslims. The president, let's say, is a Muslim, or the prime minister is a Muslim, or the ministers are Muslims, those who are in power are Muslim, but because they are being controlled by the people who have money, happen to be non-Muslims, these powerful people in the Muslim countries are being used to oppress the Muslims. And you can see that happens in many Muslim countries. Brothers and sisters, that also affect even our education, even our cultural life. The non-Islamic cultures are penetrating into the Muslim society. Do not be surprised that any culture that people are practicing in America, all of a sudden you have it in the Muslim lands. American people are observing so-called Halloween. Muslims in the Muslim countries are doing also Halloween. American people are having so-called Valentine Day. Muslims are having their own Valentine days. Why? Why it happens? The reason is because we are weak in every segment of our life. There is an Arabic saying says, "Al-maghlubu mula'un bil-ittiba'i bil-ghalib." The defeated ones tend to follow those who are victorious. In other words, the weak people tend to follow what the powerful say. And that's what's happening. Because we are weak economically, it affects our political life, it affects our educational life, it affects our even cultural and religious lives. We tend to follow others' way of life. Culturally speaking, in terms of identity, that Muslims are losing their identity, they're very easily open into following the identities of other people. Now, brothers and sisters, but even worse than that, what is happening in the Muslim lands, we see what is called inferiority complex. Muslims do not feel that they have dignity. They have dignity. Al-Izzah. Muslims lost Al-Izzah al-Dhatiyah, and that is self-confidence. And it reminds me when Umar Allahu anhu entered into Jerusalem for the first time, when the Muslims victoriously took over Jerusalem from the Romans. The governor of Jerusalem did not want to present or give the key of the city to the Muslims commander. If not mistaken, it was Abu Ubadah. So Abu Ubadah must ask Umar Allahu anhu to travel from Medina al-Munawwarah to Jerusalem to receive the key of the city. Because in order to enter into the city, there's a special gate at that time, and there's a door, and there's a special key for that. So the governor only wanted to hand over the key directly to the king of the Muslims. In other words, a Khalifa at that time. And it was in the time of Umar radiallahu anhu. So Umar radiallahu anhu traveled from Medina to Jerusalem. Imagine how far it is. There is no flight. There is no car. It was by Bighal, with his servant, with someone. So when he arrived in the city, he was received by Abu Ubadah. And Umar Allahu anhu's clothing was dusty, full of dust. We can imagine travel so distantly from Medina to Jerusalem. So Abu Ubadah asked him to change his clothing. The Umar asked him why. He said, because you are going to meet the governor and you have to be in a good shape. I mean, outfit. You have to have a good outfit. Umar Allahu anhu was upset because he understood. Umar has a very sensitive sense, because he understood that his commander, military commander, Abu Ubadah, had lost the idea of Izzah. So what he said to him, Ya Abu Ubadah, لَقَدْ أَعَزَّنَ اللَّهُ بِالْإِسْلَامِ. O Abu Ubadah, verily, indeed, Allah has dignified us with Islam. Allah has made us dignified. Allah has given us dignity in a form of Al-Islam. فَإِنِ ابْتَغَيْنَ الْعِزَّةَ بِدُونِهِ أَذَلَّنَ اللَّهُ. And if we try to find any dignity without Islam, and it is through your political power, through your economic power, through your clothing, whatever, but you don't have Islam in it, you are not dignified by the religion, by the deen of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, what Umar say? أَذَلَّنَ اللَّهُ. Allah will once again humiliate us. And that's what we see today, brothers and sisters. that how Muslims are living in a very humiliating circumstances. Economically, we are humiliated. We have natural resources, but we are poor. Educationally, we are left behind. Politically, we are marginalized. Militarily, you can see what happens in the Middle East. Inferiority complex. Because Muslims lost their self-confidence. They become inferior. They feel being defeated before the defeat itself. They feel weak before someone is coming to weaken them. Very easily influenced and controlled. Brothers and sisters, that's what the problem that we are facing. But among all crises that we are facing in the Muslim lands, with all greatness that we have, natural resources, human resources, many Muslims are smart, but unfortunately, all sad situation that I mentioned is reality. But among the most critical issue that we are facing at the moment is not poverty, it's not political weakness, but it is division. The absence of unity and the absence of real brotherhood among the Muslims. Division happened between the Muslims Ummah. There are many reasons behind that. Among the reasons is because Muslims hold very, very dearly what's so-called narrow nationalism. And every country thinks about himself without the others. While this Ummah, brothers and sisters, is a global Ummah, of course we know we are living in a nation state at the moment. I mean, every Muslim have their own countries. That is the reality, and we cannot deny that. We are living in a nation state. Saudi, Qatar, Emirate, Egypt, Bangladesh, Pakistan, Indonesia, Malaysia, Turkey. All these are nation states. Yes, that's reality. We cannot deny that. But brothers and sisters, despite of all these national differences that we have, there is a very solid common ground of this Ummah. And that common ground is La ilaha illallah Muhammad Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam. And because of that narrow nationalism, we tend to forget our common grounds, and we hold so powerfully into our nationalistic tendency. So we don't care about what is happening in the Muslim somewhere, because we feel that they are, different countries. Some Muslim countries don't think about what is happening to Rohingya people. They don't care about what is happening to the Uyghur people. They don't care about what is happening to the Kashmiris people. Some Muslim countries even don't care about what is happening to the Palestinian people, because they say, this is not my country. That is because of narrow nationalism. Brothers and sisters, I don't want to say that it is not important for you to love your country. Because Hubbul Watan, there's a saying says, Hubbul Watan min al-Iman. Loving your country can be a part of that faith that you have. That's fine. But above all that, your faith is about La ilaha illallah Muhammad Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Political views have divided this ummah. Even locally speaking. In New York City, we are facing local election. Once again, we are facing challenge in terms of our differences. Some Muslims are supporting this candidate, some others are supporting that candidate. Muslims are divided in terms of their support to the candidates for mayoral election, for example. It is Eric Adam or Yang or this or that. Muslims are divided. And because of those political divisions, we tend to divide ourselves. Brothers, we can have different opinions in terms of political ideas. You can support whatever you want, but we cannot afford to divide ourselves. At the end of the day, there is even more important than just a candidate. There is even more important than just mayoral election. And that is the wihda, the unity of this ummah of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Muslims are also divided because economic blocks. Some people follow, United States and Europe, and some people follow China, for example, in terms of economic prosperity. Some Muslim countries are borrowing from China, some Muslim countries are borrowing from America, and they begin to, to blindly support one another. While China and America are fighting one another in terms of so-called trade wars, there's a fighting between China and America economically. Muslims are dividing themselves in their support, because China giving to some countries while America giving some money to some countries, and the Muslims are fighting one another, economic blocks. But also, classically speaking, this is a classical division among the Muslims because of the religious views, religious interpretation. In our own country, and I mean here in America, Muslims oftentimes divide themselves primarily on two things. Number one, because of national backgrounds. In other words, there's an ethnic problem that we have. We are managing our community ethnically based management. And so Pakistani with Pakistanis, Bangladeshi with Bangladeshis, Arab with Arabs, Indonesian with Indonesians. We don't try to minimize the barriers that we have so we can come as one ummah here in America, ummah of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. The second problem also that we are facing in America, organizational affiliations. Because some Muslims belong to these organizations, and some others belong to that organizations, and they begin to feel that they are divided. Some people are so loyal to ISNA, some people are so loyal to ICNA, some people are so loyal to Muslim American Society, some Muslims are loyal to American Muslim Society. There's two, American Muslim Society and Muslim American Society. There's a difference. Some Muslims belongs to NABIC, and some Muslims. You can imagine how many organizations that we have in the United States. And because of those affiliations to some organizations, Muslims divide themselves. Brothers and sisters, I just wanted to end with this. We have to be honest to ourselves. Nothing that we can achieve, despite all these great potentials that we have as the Ummah of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Globally speaking, 57 Muslim majority countries, 57, the second largest within the United Nations organization. The largest one is Non-Aligned Movement, Asian African Organizations. And the second one is OIC, Organization of Islamic Conference. This is the second largest. 57 countries, majority Muslim countries, in one organization, but they never come together when they have a problem, globally speaking. Always divide themselves. And that's why we cannot effectively support our brothers and sisters in Palestine. We cannot effectively defend our Rohingya brothers in Burma. We cannot effectively support our Kashmiri brothers and sisters. We cannot effectively defend our Uyghurs brothers in China. So the only way is coming back again to our platform, to our home together. And that home is the Ummah. The word Ummah, that is our home. Come back and be together in that home, the Ummah of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. When this Ummah can unite themselves, we can be so powerful. We can be so strong, and we can contribute not to make people scared, but we can contribute positively to our global world. Inshallah ta'ala, it must begin now. And in order to begin, we have to change our mindset, because change is necessary. Inna Allaha la yughayyiru ma biqawmin hatta yughayyiru ma bi anfusihim. Verily, Allah will never change the situation of any nation, of any qawm, including this ummah, without changing themselves. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala strengthen us. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give us tawfiq. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala guide us. See you next time, inshallah. أقول قولي هذا وأستغفر الله. والسلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.